Wholeness. Welcome. This is Josh Dippold of IntegratingPresence.com. And today it's another Open Wisdom Wednesday. And joining us all from a new place here in Denmark, the country of Denmark. And this is my first time on mainland Europe. I've been to Iceland before, but never the mainland. And I just want to say, in general, it's been great for my meditation practice. I mean, there's far less distractions, and that's actually kind of what I want to talk about today too. Putting the show description in here as well. I need to split it up into two things. Hope everybody can hear me. How's everybody here doing today? So this is just where kind of we chat freely, and you guys are welcome to ask questions. And like the description says, this is mutual office hours for wisdom. I ask unplanned, general, and specific questions for your wisdom, and you ask me. And in the meantime, we share openly, likely from whatever's going on currently, to get at our wisdom. So, of course, the general question here is, what have you guys been wise to lately, right? What wisdom have you gained? What wisdom would you like to gain? These type of things. I know for me, I wanted to make this more specifically about formal sitting practice, formal meditation practice. In environment, since I'm in a new environment here in a new country in Denmark, came to me earlier, these levels of meditative environments as far as formal sitting. So of course we got the rich depth, complex internal environment, right? That's when our eyes are closed and we're going within, that internal environment, going within. So then there's the immediate kind of room or space that we're meditating in. And then there's kind of more the broader environment, maybe like the country or the town or the city, the state, this kind of on a macro level. So I just want to ask you guys, what do you find most conducive to your sitting meditation practice or a formal meditation practice if you have one? What's helpful, what's not? I know for me, I can address just kind of like the immediate environment that I'm sitting in. It's classically given in the Buddhist text that the Buddha recommends going to the forest or the wilderness, or sitting at the foot of a tree, or even an abandoned building. So these are like environments where there's not a lot of distraction, there's not a lot of people's issues, I guess, getting in the way. These are ideal spaces for sitting aside or grief for the world, or grief or distress, and also our greed, what we want from the world. These type of things can be a distraction when doing formal sitting practice. But not everybody has access, right, it's not really convenient to go to a woods or an abandoned building or a monastery or the foot of a tree even a lot of times. So we do this likely at our homes or dwelling spaces. And of course, maybe it's more obvious to some people than others, but a very clean physical environment is very helpful, obviously, because energetically it just feels better. I give this example a lot of times where you can go to a really trashy neighborhood and it just doesn't seem safe. The vibe seems low, at least compared to if you're in a very friendly, warm, welcoming environment. And we just compare those spaces, right? Place with broken out windows versus a really high, upscale neighborhood. These are easy examples that people can recognize the difference energetically just by if it's physically clean or not. Okay. And then there's practices like clearing our space. Some people like to smudge. Some people just know how to do energetic clearing. Maybe they will say a phrase or something like this. I used to smudge at home with sage, and these type of things. So Ashley says, "Hey Josh, hey friends, welcome Ashley. How are you?" Again, the kind of questions I'm asking you guys for is, what kind of wisdom have you learned lately, and and specifically, I was brought to my attention recently the immediate environments that we do formal sitting meditation practice, and so now the place I'm staying in is just energetically amazing. Not only is it physically very clean, but it's also very well thought out as far as where all the objects go in relation to all the other objects. As far as energetics go, it's a really high vibrant space, very conducive to inner work. Then I was also talking about the broader environment beyond one's current dwelling place where they actually do the meditation. So the entire town where I'm at now, I had, probably only been on 3 or 4 different walks outside, but it's kind of like in a small town. Everything's neat and tidy. There's not a lot of drama or activity going on. People are friendly. Um, and not a lot of imposing on other people. There's plenty of natural green space and parks. Um, yeah, everything's kind of orderly and efficient. So there's not a lot of distractions going on, like right. Not a lot of drama. Not a lot of things like in the states. Like they want your attention. Like there's a lot of money involved for getting someone's attention. So this just overall kind of culture and environment is kind of more conducive. I've felt so far, short amount of time I've been here, for doing inner work and going within. So I notice I'm going to read some comments here in a moment and see what you guys feel about your immediate environment, and then um, grander environment, how it might be helpful or less helpful, what you've experienced, and maybe what you feel could be more helpful or less helpful too. And then I think we're just going to bypass the main internal environment, other than just because it can go so vast. But the main comments there obviously are. There's a mirroring effect, I would say, right? If what's going on internally, there might be an analog on the external environment, and then what even that might play into the grander environment, right? What kind of human being I am might be. I might have more affinity to the places I live and practice meditation, like in a state or country, these type of things, right? Or maybe not. I'm interested to hear what you guys say. Okay, so Ashley says, I'd be honest, seriously anxious state, but keep positive on top of it. So she's in a serious anxious state, but keeping positive on top of it. Well, that's very interesting, Ashley. Yes, it's a really good outlook, I would say, to have. And so, yes, of course, admitting how you actually are feeling, especially to ourselves, right? Instead of pretending it's not there, right? So having the courage to say, I'm really anxious right now. I feel anxious, but then is it going to be helpful for me to keep doing that and saying that and bringing that up all the time? Well, I would find it would be helpful to not lie to myself about it, and at the same time, if I stay in that thing all the time, it's just going to make it worse, probably, right? So I want to acknowledge what's there, and then kind of set goals or um, I guess, aspirations to address it, right? And address it in helpful ways. So Vagabond says, if meditation is more, say, internal, why do I find it best to do outdoors rather than indoors? Very question, Vagabond. We mentioned that a little earlier. So outdoors, well, first off, it seems to be more of a natural environment, right? You don't have man's imposing on us. So even in the best indoor structures, there's still someone who thought of the idea how to build the building. Then there's more humans involved in building the structure, and then people supplying the material, right? And then the city plan. So much goes into it with human beings. And not that I'm anti-human, obviously. It's just that all these different beings, there's so much involved in their lives. And then so much of the things they're going through can, maybe some people say, energetically brought into the whole system of building things and the supplying of things and all the hardships they're going through. But nature really doesn't have any of that, right? So if you go outside into nature, they're not worried about how they're going to pay the rent, or how to get their child to school on time, in all these different complex human emotions, which are very rich and varied and make life worth living a lot of times, but they also cause a lot of pain and hardship and suffering, or can be causing some conditions for that. If you go outside, there's way less of that, right? The forest, these things like that, less distractions is an easy way to kind of boil it down. So yes, it actually is recommended to go outside and meditate, in a wilderness area if you feel safe. or even to the foot of a tree, even outside on a park bench, I would say. And then Ashley says, I'd love to meditate more outside, but I feel I'd be easily distracted. Do I feel I have a safe, calm environment here for at home? Do I feel I have so are you asking a question? Do I feel I have a safe? Yeah. So I think that's the number one thing. So if you're not comfortable doing it, if you don't feel safe, that's obviously something to pay attention to, right? Because that comes first. I mean, a lot of people are even on the spiritual path to begin with just to find safety. That could be the whole part of it, because there's so many levels of being unsafe, and a lot of it does come from within. So if we do feel safer, especially starting off in our home, right? Yeah, that's the obvious thing. And we're going to be spending a lot of time meditating in our places of living anyway. But yeah, it is for some very adventurous to go outside and meditate, and maybe the next one I do of this, I'll do outside. I did the last one from a beach, so that seems a little bit safer environment outdoors, right? I didn't do formal meditation there, but I have outside. You can see the talk I've done in the past on my website called "Being in and of Nature," and so I addressed this from the woods after I did meditation there, and I did another recording after that about a crystal gazing meditation. So, or at the same time, at the same day. Yeah, I really find it so that goes more into depth of how to kind of meditate outside, or at least how I did it anyway, and some suggestions. Ash, and then I'm gonna really mess up this name. Deepashan, Deepashanshu says namaste. I would say namaste. All right. Well, does anyone else have anything to share about their meditative environments? Any questions too? Let me see what other kind of related questions I can get at here. Does anyone like to ask me any questions? Um, this is the meditative environment is kind of a common thing to compare to. So I would definitely say if you get an opportunity to meditate somewhere different than you normally do it and see how it kind of compares and stacks up to your regular practice. One or two sessions might not be enough to make an accurate assessment, but it'll still likely be a significant difference to try it out. Um, yes, and then even going into meditation, sometimes this is a common advice to kind of get more into a meditative state before you even get to the cushion or formal sitting practice, because sometimes people are just going and going. I know I am going and going sometimes, that when you sit down it takes even longer to adjust. So if there can be enough mindfulness to even kind of gear oneself towards it without making it a big deal, like, oh, now I have to change so significantly just to sit in meditation. And this can go into just habits in general, but as far as the environment, some other common advice given is have a designated spot at a place where you dwell. Ideally, not a bedroom, although at my old place, I was doing it in my bedroom. This happens to be just because, I mean, for me, I tend to be more sleepy in my bedroom, so it's probably not the most ideal place. Some people like to do like an altar, putting things of significance nearby there. But the main thing I feel is cleanliness and regularity, having a space to go to regularly, but then also switching that up where so it doesn't get as boring, and you can kind of notice the difference of different spaces too. So you might not have chosen the best spot to begin with to meditate, and you might gain some experience on how to find a better, more conducive spot. But I think there's two saying in Zen. There's a saying in Zen. There's only two jobs in Zen, and one is to meditate, and two is to sweep in the temple, and that temple extends outside, beyond the temple walls. So it's just kind of like a metaphor for, yes, you meditate and then you also do work, right? You're not just sitting all day long. And it also means taking care of your immediate environment and pretty much the whole world. What kind of service we can do, contribute to the whole world too. As far as meditation that's not as formal, yeah, just a walk in the woods can be good. People just like going to the beach, right? Listening to music or media that doesn't agitate the mind, that's more conducive to calm and well being. and consciousness, enlightenment, awakening, these type of things. Conversations with certain people, the people you hang around with, right? How we conduct ourselves. All these things can be. We can either bring our meditative practice to them, a formal meditation practice to them, and they can also be like a formal or a meditative practice in themselves. And not only that, they will come back and inform our formal practices as well. So just about any activity in life can be used in that dynamic of being kind of a meditative practice in itself, and then informing our formal meditation practice, and having our formal meditation practice help with whatever life activity we do, even if it's just regular mindfulness where we kind of aware of what we're doing and how it affects us, how we view it, and how we respond to it. All right. Well, if there's no other questions, I was going to keep this to 15 minutes. I'm already a minute over. And wishing you all health, happiness, and well being for all for today and going forward. Be well. Much love.